The second of the yamas in both Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and in the Sharada Tilaka is Satya. Satya means truth. And to really understand Satya, we have to look at it in relationship with ahimsa, nonviolence. Because for most people, there seems to be a tension between these two. Knowing that nonviolence is preeminent, a lot of people just, rather than create any conflict, they just don't share when they're upset or when they have some kind of problematic or challenging emotion. And see, the thing is, resolving the tension between ahimsa and satya is right at the heart of the entire yogic lifestyle when it comes to embodying the virtues and the practices of yoga. So I'll explain what I mean. The challenge here with Satya is to speak up. We're invited to speak up with this injunction of Satya. Speak the truth, right? It's not a negative word. It's not saying don't lie. It's saying speak up and speak the truth. So we have to investigate what is truth and how can we articulate the truth in a nonviolent way. So first of all, the assertion in the yoga tradition is that it's always possible to speak the truth with kindness. You can find a way. It might be difficult, but you can find a way. And that's why, again, I refer to the tools of nonviolent communication. They're so powerful. So when what seems to you to be the truth is, an idea or opinion about someone else's behavior, whether it's your neighbor or the president, instead, you can translate that into what's really going on, which again is your own feelings, needs, and values. So in other words, we could simply say, in general, sentences that start with the word you are not true. Why? Because you can never actually know with any degree of certainty what someone else's inner experience is. You can't know for sure where someone else is coming from, why they're doing what they're doing, what's behind their words and actions, how those words and actions make sense to them, what kind of history makes those words and actions meaningful for them. Since we can't know someone else's inner landscape or inner experience with any certainty, how can we start a true statement with the word you? In this view, on the level of interpersonal interaction, true statements start with the word I rather than you. So realizing this is really powerful. Again, it's not about simply saying the right thing or censoring yourself from making you statements. It's about actually seeing for yourself that you statements have no validity because you don't have the authority to comment on someone else's inner life or inner world from which their words and actions spring. But you do have the authority to comment on your own inner world. And in fact, you have the responsibility to speak up and speak the truth about what's going on for you, about what you're feeling, about what you're needing, about what you're valuing, about what matters to you. Because if you don't speak up and speak the truth, other people have no idea of how they're impacting you, unless they're very intuitive, right? We do others a service when we let them know how their actions are impacting us without blaming them. That's very key. So when you share what comes up for you in relation to someone else's actions, you're not, if you understand the truth of the matter, you're not actually assigning blame, you're not even establishing a causal relationship. When you really delve into the spiritual value of truth, you discover that there's no certainty in the mind's stories about causal relationships. Like, you did this and that made me feel angry, you made me angry, right? But is it a causal relationship? Did the person create the feeling of anger in you? Is it inevitable? Is it the only way it could have happened? Or rather, does your anger arise in relationship not only to that person's actions, but to your entire past history, right? that's closer to the truth, isn't it? The emotions that arise for you in any given moment are at least as dependent on your entire past history as a human being as they are on someone else's actions. So when you realize this for yourself, then you see, I can't actually say that there's a causal relationship here and have that be a true statement. So instead of blame, saying you caused this, what I say is, when you do that action, whatever it is, I feel this. You're noting the correlation without assigning causation, right? This is one of the most powerful realizations in the contemplative life, whether scientific or spiritual, that correlation does not equal causation. And so speaking up and noting the correlation does not need to carry the energy of blame or demonizing the other. Just letting them know that when they perform those actions or say those things, these feelings arise in you, so that they can have that feedback to do with it what they will, right? It's part of their learning and growth process. Just like if you want growth, you're going to ask other people, hey, what comes up for you in relation to my actions? And you can understand that even if then they blame you and say, actually, you really annoy me and I think you're a jerk and you're inconsiderate, that you can translate that because you understand that that blame holds no truth, but yet there's an opportunity there for you to take responsibility that, hey, this person, their needs aren't being met by my actions. That's okay. It's not that that's wrong or bad, but it's an opportunity to just look at that and say, hey, well, to what extent do I want to meet this person's needs? If I realize I do want to meet their needs and I'm not doing so, then I want to adjust my behavior, not because I'm agreeing with their story that there's something wrong with me, but just because I want to contribute to their well-being. And if I don't, when I look and see, honestly, authentically, truth, I really don't want to contribute to this person's well-being, I just want to get away from them, then be in alignment with the truth as it expresses within you, even if it's disappointing. Sometimes we have this idea, I should always, whatever. But Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says that truth means alignment of one's words and actions with reality. So it's wonderful when you want to contribute to others' well-being, when you want to meet their needs, and if you don't, faking it doesn't help them, doesn't help you, isn't in service to the world. So authenticity is a big part of truth. Consider that. When you meet others' needs because you actually want to, the energy that is transmitted in those actions is far more effective, profound, and beautiful. And in fact, even if sometimes you don't feel you can authentically try to meet someone else's needs, right? That's okay, because when you do put that desire to contribute to their well-being into action, the ripples from that authentic act are so powerful. So this is really just an initial exploration of the incredibly deep topic of Satya. Of course, we have to acknowledge that not until we have total clarity, total spiritual awakeness, can we be completely truthful. Up until then, we can strive towards truthfulness, but we can never be perfectly truthful. Let me just note a couple more things. The truth, often, if we care to look, is, I don't know. Meaning to say, when you're invited as a spiritual practice to speak up and speak the truth, immediately the mind goes to, oh yes, I should affirm some particular proposition which is true. But most often the truest thing you can say is, I don't know. You might say, this is how it seems to me. This is the story my mind's telling. This is the feeling that's coming up. This is what matters to me in this situation. All that is true. But ultimately, I don't know if the story my mind is telling is true. I don't know if how it seems to me is how it is. I don't know that for sure. When you know that you don't know, it is the most powerful foundation for truth-telling. And the reason for that is that you are open. When you know that you don't know, you're open. And you realize that anything you can say in words is never completely true. It's always partial. And so you're more gentle, you're more soft. When you think you have certainty, it leads to incredible hardness. And that's how we come into conflict with others, when we think we have certainty. Certainty is often the basis of conflict, right? When we have certainty, we're self-righteous. When we have certainty, we can forge in there and, tell the other person they're wrong and feel good about it, But in truth, in the realm of, certainly in the realm of interpretations of reality, thoughts and stories, there's no certainty to be had. You can, of course, know what it is you're feeling, but you often can't even express that adequately in words. So in the realm of words, there's very little certainty to be had, if any. And admitting when we don't know is so beautiful. It's the foundation for all other forms of truth-telling, I think. This way of understanding and thinking about truth, of course, should not degrade into mere relativism. Relativism is the idea that everyone's opinion is equally valid, and the problem with relativism is it prevents you from taking a stand in your own truth, right? Because if everyone's opinion is equally valid, then who am I to say anything? My truth isn't any more true than your truth, right? Well, again, in the realm of interpretations of reality, there's some value to putting it that way, but you see how it can be a slippery slope to not speaking up, right? Standing in your own truth as best as you can perceive it is a crucial part of the spiritual path. Sure, maybe you'll realize later, oh, I was wrong, I misperceived, whatever, but doing your best to stand in your own truth and speak that truth forthrightly and as nonviolently as possible, that is so valuable and so necessary, especially in the world today. We cannot afford to not speak up. We cannot afford to not speak the truth as best we can perceive it. Of course, it's so wonderful to add those caveats of, well, this is how it seems to me, I'm not sure, when you're articulating an interpretation. And when you're articulating your feelings and needs and values, you don't need to soft pedal those. You don't need to make excuses for them. It's okay to be feeling whatever you're feeling. It's okay to value what you value, okay? So do soft pedal opinions and interpretations, marking them with the uncertainty which is appropriate to reality, but also let's be courageous in speaking what we know to be true, what we're feeling in this moment, what we're needing, what we're valuing. And you might have noticed in the videos, we have an image here of Durga, and she's the warrior goddess in Indian mythology. And the image of a warrior, of course, is seemingly an inherently violent image, but it's a symbolic story. Durga slays Mahishasura, the buffalo demon, who symbolizes, if you will, our animal nature, which is not to demonize our embodiment as animals, but to just point to when we are not self-reflective, we can speak our anger in violent ways and untruthful ways, like in terms of what's wrong with the other person. That's both violent and untrue. And the quality of self-reflection is, in the Indian tradition, considered to be that which elevates us from the dumb beasts. So in the original tradition, in the cultural context, Durga slaying that buffalo demon is a powerful symbolic act of the courage it takes to be a yogi, to be self-reflective, to not act out your most distorted forms of conditioning, but rather to speak the truth after pausing, breathing, reflecting. That takes even deeper courage. To be a non-violent warrior is the most courageous act of all. So let's remember that when we see the image of Durga, either in the video or elsewhere. That's what the warrior goddesses of India represent. So, what a profound topic. We could go on and on about this. I invite you to explore it in your own life, journal about it, look at it from different angles. The apparent tension between truth and nonviolence, when resolved at the heart of being, explodes into a life of harmony and a life of joy, a life of connection. Om.